YouTube channel. So I want to create content that shows anyone that's coming from the United States or Canada or any other English-speaking country that's coming to live as a language assistant here in Spain, specifically Madrid. Okay, so I'm going to be talking about budgeting, what budgeting looks like, and how much money you should bring when you first arrive to Spain. Today's topic is going to be the latter, how much money you should be bringing when you arrive to Spain, specifically Madrid. I keep repeating Madrid specifically because it is one of the most expensive cities within Spain. Every other region is super affordable, and while all of Spain is very affordable, Madrid and Barcelona can be a lot more expensive compared to any other region. I've been living in Spain for 3 years now, and whenever I first moved here, I had a lot of friends and family ask me, how can I live on making 700 to 1,000 euros a month in Europe? When people think of Europe, they think about living in Paris or London, and yes, those cities are super expensive, and yes, it would not make sense to live making only 700 euros a month in those places. However, Spain is a lot more affordable. So I want to create content that shows people that are thinking about moving abroad, and especially in Europe, how they can consider Spain to be one of the places that they move to, based on the income that you get as a language assistant through the ministry or through a program like the University of Alcalá as you're doing your master's. So there's some people that are out there that can score remote work and receive a US income and live anywhere in the world. However, this specific content is going to talk about how to live as a language assistant and with that amount of income, because I know that remote work is not accessible to everybody, and I want everybody to know that no matter your income level, you can make a life for yourself abroad. As long as you're willing to think outside of the box and live in a lifestyle that might not be the same as is your life in the United States. Okay, so when you're thinking about coming to Madrid, you should think about bringing at least 3,000 euros with you. This is important because in Spain, they only pay at the end of the month. So if you don't start work until October, then you won't be getting paid until the end of October. That means that those first few weeks before you start work and you arrive and you're looking for housing, and then you find your room in your apartment and you move in, and all of those expenses that you have to pay, you can't factor in that income into what you're going to pay in the first month and a half that you're here. I'm not going to factor in the amount of money you'll have to spend when you arrive until you find your room in your apartment, because that can look different for everybody. Some people know people here that they can stay with. Some people are able to afford a hotel. Some people are able to afford an Airbnb. Some people will need to couch surf, and all of those options are okay. So I don't want to factor that in, but you should think about that and think about what is your best option and what you can afford to do when you arrive to Spain and to Madrid while you're looking for a room in an apartment. As a language assistant, you can make anywhere from 800 to 1,000 euros a month. Now, it doesn't sound like a lot, and it's not. So one of the ways you have to shift your mindset, that if you're coming from maybe not a big city like New York and you're used to living in an apartment by yourself or in a house, in Madrid, you will most likely have to share an apartment with people, which is honestly the best way to make new friends. If you think about making between 800 to 1,000 euros a month, you can't get a one-bedroom apartment for 700 euros, 700 to 800 euros, and feel comfortable, because then you have no money for your transportation or any of your other expenses that comes with living in a city. I recommend that when you're looking for an apartment, you should look for an apartment that your living expenses won't be more than 450 a month. This includes utilities, okay? So the reason I say this is because if you're paying, let's say, 400 a month, for your initial deposit, you normally have to have 1 month's rent for the month ahead, then 1 to 2 months of deposit. Then a lot of times you have to use a realtor to find a room in an apartment, and that costs another month's rent. So sometimes you have to pay up to 4 months rent ahead of time just to get a room in an apartment. The ideal situation is that you only pay your month ahead and 1 deposit, so only 2 months rent. So if you come here and you cap it off at 400 a month, then you can pay as little as 800 to find your room, or as much as 1,600 if you're paying for the 4 months that we discussed. And this is just rent. We're not even discussing transportation, groceries, and any other living expenses that you'll have while being a person in a new city in a new country. So this 3,000 euros will help you for that first initial cost of finding a room in an apartment, and then just having a bit extra every month while you're living on the small amount that you get as a language assistant. Now, there are ways for you to get in a room in an apartment before you arrive and just move in directly when you get there, when you get here. However, there are so many scams within Madrid of people lying about being able to rent out a room and then it actually not being theirs to rent out. So you do have to be careful that you don't get scammed. The best way to find a room is to be here and to be able to see it for yourself in person, or have somebody that you already know within Madrid to go and look at the apartment for you. And now, I know that there are horror stories out there on the internet that says that Spain doesn't pay you on time, and this does happen in other regions. However, you don't have to worry about that happening in Madrid. In the last about 5 years that I've known people living here and doing the program in Madrid, they have been paying on time. So that doesn't seem to be a problem here in Madrid. In my next video, I'll be breaking down my utilities, my other living expenses, and my I'm still a human and I want to enjoy things funds looks like, specifically for me. And then you can see about how much money you would probably spend while living here based off of what I spend. Thank you for tuning in today, and I'll see you in the next video.